The US says China is supplying 90% of Russia's microelectronic imports.
The chips that go into drones hitting Ukrainian cities.
And China's response is, we're just doing normal trade.
With a country under the world's harshest sanctions.
Putin showing the world that China and Russia are together.
In February 2022, two men stood side by side in Beijing and declared something the world hadn't heard since the height of the Cold War.
Isn't the only issue over these games. China's human rights abuses are also in the spotlight.
A no-limits partnership, no forbidden zones, no ceiling on cooperation. And just 18 days later, Russia invaded Ukraine.
What's happened in the 3 years since? Has that partnership delivered? And does it have the power to outlast American dominance in the 21st century?
That's what we're unpacking today. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sara. This is The Exchange Show. Two sides, one truth.
Here's what most people miss about China and Russia. This isn't a new friendship. It's actually a complicated, often hostile relationship that was completely rebuilt in modern times.
Right. The Soviet Union and China were bitter rivals for decades, competing communist powers that nearly went to war in 1969 over a border dispute on the Ussuri River.
Fast forward to 1991. The USSR collapses. Russia is economically devastated, politically humiliated. China is beginning its extraordinary economic rise. The power balance starts shifting.
So when did the modern relationship actually begin?
The formal framework starts in 2001, a treaty of good neighborliness.
Then it deepens through the 2000s as both countries push back against what they call US-led unipolarity. They start aligning at the UN Security Council, blocking Western resolutions, building trade ties.
A friendship treaty between the two countries had lasted for 25 years. There was a danger of reversing into the law of the jungle, has less power. And I think certainly those comments about the law of the jungle did refer indirectly to the US and some of the Trump administration's actions over the past year.
And by 2022, they're declaring no limits. How did we get there so fast?
Western sanctions after the 2014 Crimea annexation pushed Russia toward China commercially. NATO expansion anxiety brought them together strategically. And both Xi and Putin shared a worldview that the Western-led order needed to be dismantled.
Let's anchor this. February 4th, 2022. Putin arrives in Beijing for the opening of the Winter Olympics. The world's watching the games. Behind closed doors, something bigger is happening.
Xi and Putin sign a 5,000-word joint statement. It declares a partnership with, and I want to read this carefully, no limits, no forbidden zones, no off-limits areas of cooperation. It's extraordinary diplomatic language.
Что касается наших двусторонних отношений, то они развиваются действительно поступательно, в духе дружбы, стратегического партнерства.
And 18 days later, Russia invades Ukraine.
Which raised the question the West immediately started asking, did she know?
The Chinese government says no. Most analysts say probably yes, or at least suspected something was coming.
Because China's response was notable. They refused to condemn the invasion. They abstained at the UN. And they kept buying Russian oil.
At scale. By 2024, bilateral trade between Russia and China had reached $245 billion, more than double the 2020 figure. China essentially replaced Europe as Russia's economic lifeline.
So China benefited from the Western sanctions on Russia?
Enormously. Russian oil was suddenly available at a discount.
China bought it. Russian markets for manufactured goods were suddenly open. China filled them. And all of it in yuan and rubles, bypassing the dollar system entirely.
Russia has become one of China's biggest suppliers of discounted oil and gas, much of it traded in Chinese yuan or rubles.
Walk me through what this relationship actually looks like in 2025. Where are we now?
The headline is 2 summit meetings in a single year. Putin visited Xi in Beijing in May 2024, his first foreign trip after his 5th presidential inauguration.
President Vladimir Putin is in China today, meeting with President Xi Jinping at an international forum. It's Putin's first major international trip since the International Criminal Court indicted him for war crimes in Ukraine.
Then, Xi visited Moscow in May 2025 for Victory Day, standing on the reviewing stand as Russian missiles rolled past.
Russia is marking Victory Day with a massive military parade in Red Square. And look who was in attendance. That's China's President Xi Jinping.
That image alone sent a message.
A very deliberate one.
They signed over 20 bilateral agreements covering digital economy, biosecurity, investment, education. They set joint goals through 2030. They described the relationship as reaching an unprecedented level.
On the military side?
Joint naval patrols since 2021.
5 completed by 2025. Joint exercises in the Pacific. Russia backing China diplomatically on Taiwan. Leaked intelligence documents suggesting Russia is supporting Chinese Taiwan contingency planning.
Leaked documents suggest that Russia is helping China prepare to attack Taiwan. They show that Russia has agreed to supply military equipment and technology that could help China prepare an airborne invasion.
And Western governments are watching all of this.
NATO's 2024 Washington Summit declaration
called China a decisive enabler of Russia's war in Ukraine.
Member states strengthen their collective resolve against China.
The 32 member states' joint communique specifically called out the People's Republic, calling Beijing a decisive enabler of Russia's war on Ukraine.
The allegation? China is supplying drone components, dual-use technology, and, according to some reports, intelligence. China denies it, but the trade data doesn't lie.
Here's what I keep pushing on. This relationship is massively unequal. China's economy is 10 times bigger than Russia's. Russia is dependent on China, not the other way around.
Well, it's quite clear that the Russians are the junior partner, and they've made themselves, over the last 4 years, dependent on China, and I think rather strongly dependent.
Is this really a partnership, or is it a patronage relationship?
That tension is real, and both sides feel it. Russia's trade with China is nearly all energy exports: oil, gas, coal.
Since then, the trade hasn't been amazing between them. I mean, certainly China buys a lot of oil and gas from Russia.
While China is Russia's #1 trading partner, Russia is only China's 7th largest. That's a significant asymmetry.
So why does China need Russia?
3 reasons. First, energy security.
With the Strait of Hormuz vulnerable, especially given the ongoing instability from the Iran situation, Russian overland energy supply becomes strategically critical. Second, geopolitical cover. Russia's UN Security Council veto is a useful diplomatic tool for Beijing. Third, the shared project of challenging U.S. primacy. Both countries believe a multipolar world serves their interests better than American dominance.
And Russia's motivation is clearer, survival. Yeah.
Economic survival, yes.
Without Chinese buyers for its oil, without Chinese manufacturers filling the gap left by Western goods, Russia's economy would be in far worse shape. But there are real limits. Prominent Russian analyst Dmitry Trenin has said publicly that Russia must maintain equal footing and cannot be a junior partner. That pride is real, and it creates friction.
So both sides benefit how, but they don't fully trust each other.
Yeah.
Which is exactly why the relationship has no formal mutual defense clause.
No Article 5. It's flexible on purpose, because China needs room to trade with Europe and the US, and Russia needs to court other partners like India and Turkey.
Let's be direct about something that often gets lost in the geopolitics. This partnership has real consequences for real people.
Starting with Ukraine, China's continued economic relationship with Russia, buying Russian energy, supplying Russian factories with components, has helped fund the war. Ukraine's President Zelensky has been explicit. He sees China as complicit.
And China's response?
Beijing maintains it has normal trade relations with both Russia and Ukraine.
It has proposed peace frameworks, but it has refused every Western demand to impose economic pressure on Moscow.
Ми взяли в полон китайських військових на території України.
There's also the question of what this means for smaller countries between these two giants. Central Asia, for example.
Exactly. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, they're increasingly caught between a dominant China expanding its economic footprint westward and a Russia trying to maintain its traditional sphere of influence eastward. Both powers want access. Neither wants the other to have exclusive control.
And for ordinary Russians, what does the China dependency mean for daily life?
It means Chinese cars on the streets of Moscow, Chinese electronics in Russian shops, Chinese apps replacing Western platforms. The cultural and economic reorientation is visible and accelerating. Whether Russians feel comfortable with that long term is a different question.
So the big question, can this alliance outlast American dominance? Is that even the right framing?
It's the right question, but maybe not the right frame. The partnership doesn't need to replace American power to be consequential. It just needs to constrain it. And on that measure, it's working.
Russia has survived 3 years of the harshest Western sanctions in history. China has continued its economic ascent. The dollar's share of global trade is declining. The SCO bloc now covers 40% of global population.
And of course, Trump's return to the White House has complicated the Western response further. There are genuine cracks in NATO unity. Trump's approach to Ukraine peace talks has raised questions about American reliability as a security guarantor. And both Moscow and Beijing are watching those cracks very carefully.
The counter-argument, Kyle, that this partnership has natural limits.
China's trade with the U.S. is $580 billion a year.
Its trade with the EU is $740 billion a year, compared to $245 billion with Russia. Beijing will not sacrifice those relationships entirely for Moscow. The partnership has a ceiling, and China holds the key to how high that ceiling goes.
Bottom line?
The Eurasian alliance is real, durable, and consequential.
It isn't going away, but it is unequal, transactional, and bounded by each side's own interests.
It could outlast American dominance spot, or it could hit its own internal limits.
The honest answer is, nobody knows yet.
That's The Exchange. Two sides, one truth. Today, the truth is, the most important geopolitical
partnership of our time is neither as solid as Moscow and Beijing want you to believe, nor as fragile as Washington hopes.
Wherever you are listening to us, please follow us. And if this helped you understand something, please leave a review.
Stay curious.